Alright guys, so welcome to the 900 rated match. So this is technically not a league match, but Elise showed it to me and he says that it should be a pretty good match to look at because it's Elise, who is quite a good player, and they don't play a lot of league, but I mean, he's a solid player, makes lots of maps, versus Corporate God, who's a newer Sammy player who goes for mech spam. And apparently what's interesting about this is that it shows sort of how to counterplay mech spam, which is a common strategy at the lower levels. And yeah, seeing how you can combat it is like going to be interesting. I think many people will find that educational. So we have Elise picking Sammy into Corporate Gods. Sorry, Elise picking that's Lash into Corporate God Sammy. Let me just check Corporate God's rating. So it's in the 700s. Just for I took it as a 900 rating because Elise is currently 900 or so, but he hasn't played too many league games, so I'm sure he's actually at least in the 1000s. So let's see, let's do some clicking. So far everything looks decent. Corporate God leading with a Sammy Recon is definitely almost never what you want to do as Sammy. If it wasn't Sammy, you'd have to have a plan for the Recon, in my opinion, to make it work. Otherwise, it's just it's hard to get value out of a Recon if you just build it and just kind of go with the flow. Okay, so tank here from Elise. That's kind of the standard Recon response. Looks like the Recon may slow down this city right here at 410, but otherwise it's going to be repelled pretty strongly by this tank here. Yeah, so indeed Corporate God goes to the left, avoiding the tank. And we saw the first mech last turn as well. So Elise goes for an infantry kill here. Indeed it does. Well, it delays the capture of this property here, but I think that Elise captured there instead, so there's like no major loss of funds from the Recon so far. So Recon dives on an infantry and it's going to die for that. Definitely don't do that. That's no good. It's you're losing a 4K unit for doing like 500 damage worth of gold to an infantry. So you want to avoid that. Also, backcapping with the mech. It's kind of interesting because it reaches this property faster. But I would prefer an infantry T-copter to drop off right there. That's my preference. But this kind of works. If you're gonna like saturate the board with mechs, then it's okay to delay one a little bit, I guess. Actually, no, that's not true. You do infantry to here and then infantry to here. So yeah, really none of these properties in the back are accelerated by capturing with mechs. Although it may look like it, it's not actually. You can actually get back there just as fast with infantry. So definitely do not back cap with mechs. You want to be getting your mechs to the front line where they can hit stuff. Because mechs are kind of like infantry, are like you can sort of hit stuff, but mainly you're around to capture and body block. Whereas mechs are like you can sort of capture and body block, but you really want to hit stuff. So the T-copter is good because it's going to help accelerate the mechs here, which is great. So Elise sees the mech spam and gets an artillery out, which is great because the artillery zones the mechs pretty hard when Sammy's CO power is not a threat. Next build is also an artillery from the left base. A T-copter, which is kind of interesting. I guess that's to get the tower. But yeah, you gotta Elise has to be thinking about medium tanks right now, I think, because there's so many mechs on the board. And luckily, Elise is a little ahead in unit count and has a sizable income lead, which is nice. Okay, so a little bit more positioning here. We see a B-copter come out, which, as you know, doesn't take much damage from mechs at all. This is like a very large critical mass of mechs. Into a tank and an artillery, that's quite a lot. You would just want some infantry scattered around here too, so you could like reach in, hit the infantry, and then advance at the mechs for blue. That would be ideal. Okay, so Elise finds an opening with a bunch of these infantry to go and take out a few of these mechs. Infantry for mech trades are great. They're very cost effective, and they, yeah, they're just good. They're just good. So yeah, diving in with there. So corporate god. So the blue here doesn't put that much pressure here. Like the artillery is going to be able to defend itself while shooting, while the B-copter gets a free shot. Although there are a few B-copters on the right that you don't want to lose air superiority here with this. Well, you won't be. You just want to make sure the B-copter can be around in the center-ish if you decide to push center. So we'll see what Elise does. I see. So the anti-air went deep to the right here to take out an infantry. Bringing down Sammy on unit count is oftentimes a death sentence for her, because then basically the idea is like her good units, like her mechs and her artillery and her infantry, are especially good when you have the unit count advantage, where you can like kind of pick your engagements, make sure your mechs get good shots off, defend like big bulky, chunks of army with your mechs, as opposed to like kind of spreading yourself thin, where your mechs are vulnerable to being hit by infantry. Okay, so there's a bit of an exchange here. Yeah, here comes the medium tank from Elise. That's very good. Notice that the corporate god responded with a lot of anti-air, so that's actually triple anti-air. That's a lot in one turn. Looks overkill though, because there's only one orange star B-copter. So at this point, since the unit count is so far in Elise's advantage, Elise can just start spamming artillery, medium tanks, stuff that like that sometimes needs shielding. But since you're up so far in unit count, you can like warp the battle so that your important units don't get hit. So we'll see that, I'm sure, very shortly. So kind of like a half attack on the right to take out another mech, take this property, and now Elise is up 3k on a pretty stabilized income. So it looks like the fighting is pretty much stopped, unless there's a big engagement here, which there kind of looks like there might be, moving in from the left and the right to hit the anti. Sorry, to hit the anti-air. Oh man. Okay. Is there a resign here or? Oh my. Oh, a lash power. Okay, well, and this is like a devastating attack. What does the lash power do? Or is it just for fun? So nothing really happens up here except for like capturing this city reinforced with artillery. So anti-air onto mech, and then yeah, tanks onto anti-air and anti-air. B-Copter roams free. So there is a Sammy Super CO power on the board, which often happens when you really beat her hard. She'll get one big Super CO power before she presses GG, but yeah, this is just dead. Yep, super duper dead. I think the CO power is actually just, I don't think it did anything. Oh, maybe the CO power was needed to one-hit KO this mech here with the anti-air. I'm just curious. Let me just look at this calculation and then we'll move on. No, so it actually dies without a CO power. Cool. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much this match. Just like going over it briefly once again. The idea being, okay, first idea is you don't lead with recon unless you have like a good idea for what it's going to do for you. Tank is almost always the right option. So until the mechs come out, it's sort of tanks, and then once we see 3 mechs, Elise says, wait a minute, something weird's going on. I better build an artillery, a preventative artillery, so I can zone them out. Bunch more mechs pop out. Okay, I better get another artillery. Even more mechs pop out. Okay, time for a B-copter because there's no anti-air on the field except for this other B-copter. So another B-copter comes out. Now comes the anti-air on the right, which also happens to work well against mechs. The tank here, since Elise was able to kill 2 mechs, so now it's only 4 mechs instead of 6, I guess. Once the mechs drops below a certain threshold, you can tank them. Like hit them with, sorry, that's like a loaded word. You can hit them with tanks. Because then there aren't enough of them to counterfire. So once the number of mechs gets low, you can build tanks again. But when it's really high, you kind of want artillery, B-copter, and medium tank. Mech count goes up again, medium tank, securing income, no presence on the right hand side, just get a bunch of free stuff. And then just win fights and GG. So yeah. Awesome. Thanks for watching, and next we'll do the 1000 rated match.